Is this the Luxury&Precision W4 USB DAC and headphone amp, the giant killer that everyone says it is? Well, let's find out. So the W4 is interesting because Luxury&Precision say they have their own chip inside, so a custom chip. And of course, someone x-rayed it to see what was inside and found, well, a DAC. Actually, 4 of the DACs that are in this, basically, the W2131 uses, or the W2 as well, used a DAC chip that had amplification built in, much as what basically mobile phone manufacturers that still use headphone sockets use, so that you have an all-in-one chip that can use with in-ear monitors or the like, and play music back. Now the 131 version had the version, I presume because the amplified version was not available, they used the non-amplified version and had their own amplification circuit, and it sounded very slightly different. That's getting maybe too technical, but essentially they stuck 4 DAC chips in there, in this. Now, of course, that's a custom chip. I mean, a chip in itself has components inside. It just, the custom chip, as they call it in this, has, well, full-size components, full-size DACs. But actually, that's not an invalid idea. We've seen that in high-end DACs especially, that manufacturers will double up or quadruple up on DACs to improve the measured performance and the overall sound quality. And even with Tech DACs, which are like the ES9038, which is 8-channel, that manufacturers will use 2x4 channels or 4x2 to improve the sound quality. They'll combine the channels all together and they'll get better measured performance and supposedly better sonic performance, although there's no way to kind of easily test that. But anyway, I can see here that Luxury&Precision has gone for something of an Astle and Kern style angular design. I don't know if I'm good with that or not so good, but it certainly looks the part. It sharp edges are always a bit rough, but we'll go into that in a bit. It has the button and volume are here instead of with the other dongle DACs I have, where you have volume controls in the menu or whatever, the thing to turn the screen back on. It looks like it's a bit bigger overall than the the W2. Just line them up as much as I can, well as I can. A bit wider and a bit longer, just a fraction. But I think I like the idea of this clicky volume control. That's the only thing that really bugged me, and I never really talked about it, is that I just assumed, well, it's going to be buttons for volume on here. I like that. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I'm going to admit I actually opened the box and had a look already. The screen is so dim that you can't see it on camera very easily. So I'm going to set something up when I do the review so you can see what's on the screen. But if you've seen my W2 review, there's only one feature I think that's different, and that is there has a screen rotation option in here. Otherwise, go look at the menu, or anyone who's posted the screenshots or video of the menu of this one, and it's essentially the same. Unlike Cayenne, you get a lightning adapter, but this one will be 2.5 volts, whereas the lightning adapter you need for things like the RU6, which use much more power, have to be 5 volts. So 5 volt capable, I should say. Otherwise, it looks much the same kind of thing as you get with any dongle DAC. And an adapter as well for USB-A to C. Now, separately, you can get a leather case, which I've already opened. This one's interesting because like when I got it, it's like, okay, which way round does this go? Because it looks symmetrical. Actually, you can see there's a cutout. It's probably if I turn it upside down. There's a cutout where the volume goes, and they actually has specific instructions in there to say only slide it in. And this is kind of obvious when I got it. I didn't even see the instructions, and I knew this, that you only slide it in from the bottom first. As if there's no catch on this end, unlike the other ones we know where it's enclosed or something like that. Or like there's the W2 one. It's open, so you have to, so you don't damage it or stretch the leather unnecessarily, because it will slide a bit the other way. You only slide it in bottom first. But actually it's quite snug. I don't know if this will loosen up. I've never had these cases. I've never tried using them extensively, so they mostly just sit on my desk. So if they do wear out over time, I don't know. One of the cool things though that this comes with, and I'll just before I bore you all to death ranting on about it, is a magnetic plate, which is much better than the double round things that come with the Cayenne ones. So this is nice and secure. Unlike the Cayenne ones, I don't have them out, but the Cayenne comes with a couple of round magnetic plates, and they'll just fall off. The case manufacturer, I'm pretty sure, is the same. I think there's only one company, as far as I know, doing these cases, but this magnetic plate is way better. And I don't know if you can get these separately. I guess someone makes them. So if you have the Cayenne, I wish Cayenne would supply these plates instead of the round ones for sticking. You stick this on the back of your phone and this will hold it in place. It does a much better job. So that's kind of one of the one-ups that the Luxury&Precision cases have. So it's probably telling that I have Campfire Audio's ARAs here, although with the FIO cable, FIO. Yeah, that's something maybe a little bit unexpected, but I think the balance works out really well. Now, with this, one of the first things I test, of course, is how does it perform with very sensitive in-ear monitors that pick up hiss out of everything. To get any significant amount of hiss, it took being pretty much in high gain at full volume. In low gain, which is the only way you're going to use something like the ARAs, at maximum volume you could hear some hiss, but you was going to get nowhere near maximum volume, even with, say, a classical music, which is maybe high dynamic range and has a lot of quiet passages. So it passes with flying colors there. With the interesting thing with power, with full-sized headphones, I use it with Dan Clark Audio's E3s, which I reviewed fairly recently. Now, with full-sized headphones in general, anything, say, like 99 Classics or 109 Pros, or anything really sensitive, even actually their larger planar headphones, the performance was pretty good in terms of headphone drive. I use the E3s as they're portable, and they're not quite as hard to drive as, say, the Stealth and Expanse, but actually these dongle DACs lately have been doing a surprisingly good job at driving even full-sized headphones. Now, it's not going to get super loud, obviously, but it could get, I was turning it up to 100 pretty much, even on a lot of music, in high gain. But it certainly got louder than my MacBook Pro. So that's going to be obviously a limitation of how much power you can get out of a phone. And before, it starts saying no thank you. And one device that has that limitation is the Tube Mini, for example, which just sounds awful out of a Lightning-based phone, but sounds fantastic out of anything USB-C. None of the problems with that. Essentially, if you think of the W2, it has more resolution. It's a jump up. Likewise, I've actually got FIO's new KA17 in here, and it's kind of similar, but it's more resolving. So the kind of thing like you can hear more of the echo of notes off a venue, and the note decay and that kind of thing is more apparent in something like the W4. Now, of course, being designed to have excellent measurements, if I was to say, if you've been around the whole portable audio thing for a while, and I said, well, it does sound like they paralleled 4 phone DACs, then you know exactly how it sounds. It is exactly how you're going to imagine it sounds. And it doesn't have, for example, it is not going to beat even an original Chord Mojo. It's just not going to happen. And now I say that specifically because I've seen on forums go, such and such a dongle DAC can beat a Chord. No, not going to happen. That being said, of course, this is heavy. If it has a large battery inside, it has a very significantly powerful FPGA. It has 30 years of research behind it, for maybe more, closer to 40. Getting even closer to 40, aren't we? Decades of research behind it, blah blah blah, etc. etc. This is for parallel phone DACs. Okay, let's get that out of the way. But as far as like resolution goes, I think it was the most resolving of the dongle DACs I have here. In terms of kind of sound, if I was to do this is kind of like left to right, warm to neutral, warm to cold. Then you have your RU6, you have your RU7, and then the kind of most coldest, it would be the W4 by far, and the warmest and worst measuring, the RU6. With the RU7 sort of sitting in the middle with a bit maybe softer sound. So if you take like your typical Cirrus Logic DAC, and it does sound a little bit kind of softer than say the ESS Tech ones, which can sound a little bit more edgy. This doesn't sound edgy, particularly like this FIO. But then you parallel them and you make them more accurate. That's the kind of result you get in this. So it isn't particularly, it's not going to be on that kind of side of musical with tubes, musical with the R2R DAC, and non-oversampling. You do have a little bit of touch of variance in there with the two tunings and the different filter modes, but it's going to sound fairly, maybe a little, if you're like me and you're used to chord, it's going to sound a little bit uninspiring. If you really love the RU6, which tends to sound a touch bloomy to me, and then there's the RU7, which sounds a touch kind of, the edges are rolled off too much, smoothed off too much. This is a little bit sharper and clearer, but sometimes it sounds maybe a touch unnatural, and that's, again, I have a preference in the extreme for either R2R or chord. But still, just like I said with the W2, when you have a nice pair of headphones, say a pair of Meze Lirics or 109 Pros or something like that, this does surprisingly well. At $449, probably it's because it's pushing the limits of the kind of price. If you think, well, normally in like a desktop system, if you were spending $249 on a DAC and $249 on an amp, you wouldn't get particularly thrilling results. Considering this is portable and has to run off, phones, it actually does pretty remarkably well. So to me, generally, it was the most, resolving of the dongle DACs I've had here so far. I could hear the most nuance in music, the best note decay where I could hear. Whereas, the FIO sounded pretty good, but it sounded like, the decay on notes was cut off eventually. But, the step up from FIO at whatever it is, under $150 up to $449 was not as much of a step up as the price is, for example. But if you want the most sophisticated, the most best measuring and most sophisticated dongle DAC out there, I can see a lot of people for whom, a lot of people buy these because this is going to be their primary use thing. They might take it in and use it on a work computer, or just the portability factor, the convenience factor, and they want the best, kind of most technically accurate one, and the features appeal. Well then, yeah, sure, certainly does a good job. Maybe it's just pushing the luck at $449. That's a fair bit of money. Because you also got the Tube Mini in there, which is starting to push that kind of price as well. And although that's for headphones only, it doesn't have quite the musicality of the Tube Mini, especially with something like the E3s. But then you have all that stuff like, you can have the volume adjust through your phone optionally or not at all, which you can't disable on this. This has no menu system. What you get is what you get. And you have to be careful how you plug it in, otherwise you get a loud pop through your headphones. But this, yeah, as far as the technological sophistication of it, yeah, sure, they've done really, really well. And yeah, again, as a technically best dongle DAC, it certainly sounds like it is. So giant killer, maybe not, but still, it has really pushed the envelope with what can be done with a dongle DAC. And actually, in considering that the W2 was my go-to for the Meze Lirics when I wanted a portable solution, I think with the new Meze Lirics, the W4 is going to be that indeed, because these are quite resolving headphones, and you can check out my review of those on my channel. Actually, now I mention it, some of the things I have missed out in this video about this, maybe anyone who has one can comment with any information you do have about your experience with the product, so that people who are looking to buy the W4 and are considering whether or not to get it, have some more information they can get on whether it will be suitable for them or not, especially if you've had compatibility successes or issues with different software or different phones and that kind of thing. As well, in this video, I didn't cover the menu system because I had trouble shooting it with the camera I have. But at the end, and after a lot of fiddling around, I actually did shoot an entire short video of the menu system, and this showing all the options, including some I didn't cover, such as the special IEM presets and the preset EQ, which I kind of consider, I don't think most people use, except maybe I might use the bass boost. But anyway, I'm going to put that video at the very end of this, so that you can watch it if you're curious about what the menu options available are. So as always, thanks once again for watching, and thank you everyone who has been supporting my work, and I look forward to seeing you online.